Hello, hello, loves. Welcome, welcome. I think I'm live. I feel like it's been forever since I've come to you live from my desktop, from my computer. Anyway, so here I am. Um, I'm not sure who's going to join me because I wasn't very vocal that I'm going to do this series. Hey, Sheila. But this is actually the first part of a three-part series that I wanted to do about the heart, checking into our heart chakra. So I kind of titled the series, if you see me kind of going back and forth, it's because I've got some notes on another screen here. The series is basically like, what I wanted to talk about was how we can actually take action from a heart-based place. So the title is Why Don't We Listen to Our Heart and How to Start. And so what I wanted to talk about today is hello. So yes, if you're joining me, just do drop me a note. I love the hearts. I love the love. And I love interacting and knowing that there is someone else there. And it's not just me talking to my screen. Most of the time when I do teaching, when I do one-on-one sessions, I get to have another human on the other side, or many humans. So I do love to have a little bit of interaction. So just encourage you to say hello if you're out there. And before I kind of get into the heart, I will let you know who I am just in case you're new to me. So I'm Jen Plotnikoff. Move from Within is my business, my vision, my purpose, my being. And the whole reason actually why I named my business Move from Within actually comes from this heart space. I want to talk a little bit about what I mean by that. The other element is I call myself an alchemist, and I'm an alchemist for fear, for anxiety, for many things that are very difficult to deal with. And what I wanted to talk to you guys today, part one, is really, first of all, I think we all know that the heart is important and the heart is essential, but I want to talk a little bit about today why that why it is a place where we can really start. Last year, I actually did a 7-month-long group program, and we went through the whole entire chakra system and looking at healing through the chakra system. And we started with the heart. Now you think most likely we would maybe start at the root or at the base, but really moving through the heart is really connecting with what I call our inner alchemist. So even though I am an alchemist, really what I do for others is really help spark their own inner alchemist. I basically help show you that you've been holding your own key the whole entire time, and how to actually recognize your key and how and when to use it in a way that's going to be beneficial for you, that's really going to work for you. And so the heart really is this wonderful place to start, because the heart is the center, really, of our alchemy. So I want to start with a story, because I think this is really a wonderful metaphor. I use the heart often in my teaching as a metaphor for different things, because I really think that it helps us understand what the purpose of. And if you don't know me, if you don't know the work that I do, a lot of these different concepts, a lot of the people that I work with, you have been working really hard and you have already come a long way on your spiritual journey. You're not new at the game. Even a lot of the people that I work with are healers. One of the things that we often can miss, even as experienced healers and practitioners, is embodying our spiritual practice. Because most of the time, if you're really intuitive, if you're really connected, you might be very connected up here. You might be really connected to spirit through your crown. You might be really rooted through the feet and through the base. But often what happens is sometimes we have a really hard time bringing these together. And I see this with my one-on-one sessions. I've been gifting. If you don't know, I've been gifting this month many Akashic readings. And so I've got to talk to a lot of people people this month. It's been beautiful. And one of the things I notice that's a pattern that I see with a lot of us, and myself included, right? There is a reason I came to this work, because it's definitely through my own process and journey and experience, is this disconnection. It's a sense of, we kind of feel more comfortable in the spirit world and the spirit aspect of our being, but sometimes it can feel difficult, challenging, and even traumatic to bring that into our bodies. This is where we will start to think and feel into that we're not really listening to our heart, that we're kind of more coming from our mind's perspective, from our intellect. And the intellect is not a bad thing, but when it's out of balance with our other intelligences, including the heart, we're not really fully connected. We feel like something's missing. We might even really suffer through different cycles of mild or major depression. So this is something that I experienced for a long, long time, is a sense of when I definitely am disconnected from my body, when I'm disconnected from my being. I might still be really aligned with my work and my purpose, but I get this feeling that I am in a really dark, dark, dark place. Everything on the outside looks totally fine, but on the inside, I feel very alone. I feel very isolated, and I'm not sure what to do. And this is something that has come up with my clients a lot. Some of you might have even seen a recent interview, or actually probably about a month ago now, an interview I did with a colleague and past client of mine. And she kind of described the same thing. And I feel that because I've been there. A lot of you have been there. And what this work is, coming in through the heart is a way for us to start to come back in through a form that feels okay. Because here's the thing, no one likes to be forced to do anything. Right? It's like when you're training a dog, you give him or her treats when they do something that you want them to do, to reinforce good behavior, positive behavior, things that we want to see more of. So when our beings have been kind of traumatized and jettisoned out, and so we're kind of living in this sort of like really happy, high spiritual place, but it doesn't always feel okay to come in. What we can do is the heart can be our bridge. The heart can be our pathway to start to work through from a place that feels good, from the place that feels and knows connection. And so I want to just tell you this story about how we formed, because I think that it's a really wonderful way to inform us how we can start to bridge and start a conversation with our own heart. And so for those of you who don't know, I spent a lot of time studying embryology, and I spent some time, I'm a craniosacral therapist. So most craniosacral therapists, we study the body and we study anatomy through connection and human development. So we study the embryo. We look to the embryo to help us to show us a story of where our health lies, for where our blueprint for health lies, and for how we can actually listen to this wonderful dance. Because what happens when we form is there's really a dance between our spirit and our cells. And I like to use this analogy of like the dancer and the dance, right? So you have this beautiful expression of the dance, but if you don't have the dancer's body to move through, to shape the dance doesn't exist. So in a way, this is a similar way that our spirit and our body interact. It's like they need each other. They're not separate. They are both. They are one. And through the expression, they actually help shape each other. So in the same way, our spirit, our soul actually helps shapes and weaves our cells, and including our heart. So the way that our heart really is formed, and of course, if you're an embryologist, I'm going to simplify this and use it as an analogy in a story sense, just to give you an idea of how we can start to work with this, work with the shape of this. So as the heart is forming, it's really interesting because it sort of starts with these blood cells, and eventually this inner intelligence of spirit, each heart cell has its own beat. And as they kind of come together, as they pool together, they start to unify. They start to have a synchronicity. The beat comes together and it starts to work together. There becomes a momentum that starts to build. And one of the words that we use in cranial sacral therapy to describe this sense of gathering of energies and the sense of harmonizing of energies is an ignition. So what happens is when we have enough of this force coming together, when we have enough of this potency meeting, something happens. And it's not clear in science, it's not clear in energy, it's not really clear in any real understanding and form of what this something is that happens. The word that we like to use is ignition, but something happens that ignites. It's a spark that occurs within our heart. We have an additional journey that basically helps to shape and form the heart. So there's a dance between the energy of the blood and the spiraling movement of this force, life force energy moving through us that actually starts to, the heart actually starts as like a little tube. And as you know, as an adult heart, we have 4 chambers, and these 4 chambers come from this tube being turned upside down, inside out, and in all shapes and forms until we basically get to this journey of our physical heart and our bodies where it is today. Now, the reason why I'm telling you this is because if you think about the analogy of what our heart goes through in terms of our emotional status, in terms of the physical circulation of all of those enzymes, of all of those nutrients, of all of those hormones that the heart helps to circulate through our entire bodies, our entire systems. It is a direct reflection of our spirit and this dance between spirit and physical body. So it is, in a sense, the physical transformer, right? It is a physical transformer of chemicals, of fluids in our body, but it's also responsible for our emotional transformation. So when we look at, for example, when we're in anxiety, what are some of the things that we feel when we're in anxiety? We might feel, heart palpitations. We might feel our breathing get fast and shallow. And from the spiritual lens, we might look at that and go, okay, well, we need to do some meditation. We need to do some breathing. We need to control our body's natural response to what's going on. Now, this might seem all good and well, right? We're going from this holistic standpoint, and I don't want to poo-poo, these different tools because they can really be helpful tools. But this series is about listening to our heart. And so if we're trying to change a chemical physiological response that we're experiencing, there is a truth that's happening there that needs to be honored. There is something that's happening within our body that needs to be honored, that needs to be witnessed, that needs to be heard. So what I just wanted to leave you with today is actually really something very simple. So most of you, perhaps when you looked at this title of when was the time you truly listened to your heart, I really want you to take this as a physical sense. Of course, there's a deeper underlying metaphor, of course, because it's connected to how our spirit is shaping our physical form. But in order to understand this relationship, we have to start to listen. And so our heart might tell us things in a, in a philosophical sense. But guaranteed, your heart is giving you information as we speak right now through the simplicity of your own heartbeat. So, as a tool for you today, what I'd like you to do is you can join me right now if you're in a quiet space, or you can just come back to this sometime later today and just check in, or sometime later on this week. If you're watching this in a replay, just take the time, take 5 minutes. You can set a meditation timer, but just to sit with your heart and really truly just check in, listen. What is it saying to you? There's there's an eternity of wisdom there. And it's from your past lives, it's from your Akashic records, but it's also just it sits and resides in the cells. So if you're up here all the time and you're trying to listen, you're not necessarily speaking the language that your heart is used to. Your heart speaks in the language of sensation, of chemical response, of fluid and spirals. This isn't the interface of your mind. So what I'd like you to do for 5 minutes, either right now with me, thank you so much for your love, Sheila. You can take a few minutes right here with me, or you can take 5 minutes sometime later on today, but just to get comfortable. And so just you can be seated, you could be laying down. And if you are laying down, it's good to plant your feet, bend your knees, and connect to the earth. Just take a few moments just to let your body land and bring a hand to your heart. And so if you don't know where your anatomically heart is, it's just a little bit in the center left area. And so what I like to do is kind of bring my fingertips just to my collarbone and then towards the center, and just kind of land where I feel that my physical heart is. So just take a few moments just to allow. You can go skin on skin, you can go skin on fabric. It really doesn't matter. It's cold here, so I can do this with as many sweaters as necessary. It still works. And I'd just like you to close your eyes if you feel comfortable. And just start to feel, first just through the layers, first feeling the fabric of your clothing with your hand, then feeling a little bit deeper down with your hand. And you can, of course, use your consciousness, use your imagination to draw yourself there. Starting to maybe feel your ribs and collarbone underneath your fingers. And then as you sink down with your consciousness, really bringing the consciousness into the skin of your hand, receiving any information. And just notice if you can feel your own heartbeat. So just as you can, I do this sometimes with my partner, I put my head on his chest and I can hear his heart beating. And there is something the word is cohesion. So there's something very primal. There's something very sacred about connecting with your own heart or the heart of another in this way. You are holding all of your emotions, your experiences, the things that are sometimes too difficult to imagine or too heavy to carry. These are held here in this space, as well as all of the joys, If you were a mama or a dad, that feeling of holding your baby, a newborn child, that feeling of holding your loved one, whatever and whoever is sacred to you, that sense of holding and loving and nurturing on the deepest level, that is the very essence of why we're here. So, really just connecting to all of that, all that is, all that will be. So just take as long as you need here. Just take, a few moments, few hours. You could spend, as my friend Sarah says, 40 days and 40 nights exploring this moment of space here with your own heart. So just notice, what does it speak? What does it say? And listen with your hands, listen with your sensation. Check in to the heartbeat. Don't worry so much about words or images or thoughts that might come through. Just notice what happens when you feel. So that is my little gift and transmission for you today. Just listening, the simple act of listening. Notice what happens. Notice how you go and move through the rest of your day from this connected place. Really simple, but really big, really important. I'm going to leave you with this for today. If you are joining me live or if you're watching the replay, this is part 1. So part 2 and 3 have yet to be recorded. However, I think it is, let me just check my dates over here. We have Friday, October 25th, and Saturday, October 26th. So the 25th and the 26th of October, I'm going to be going live with parts 2 and 3 for this beautiful series. So I look forward to seeing you then. If you have any questions in the meantime or any comments, I always come back to these recordings, whether they're live, whether they're a few days old or a few months or years old. So please feel free, whatever time you're watching this transmission, to connect. The other thing that I had for you is I have a little announcement. Some of you may have, if you follow me, have been hearing about me talking about this portal. You might have been hearing a lot of different astrologers and other intuitive practitioners and healers talking about 2020, this whole big deal. We are entering into a new decade. And I have a couple pieces of support for you, one starting November 1st. So this is something that if you are looking for some support in with deepening into this heart space, if this is a practice that you felt resonant and you want to go deeper, we are starting November 1st. And actually, you can start a little bit earlier. I'm just November 1st is kind of the official start date, but the program is already in creation mode. So whatever point you decide to join in, you can start right away with this beautiful program. So deepening into that, that is starting November 1st. If you have any queries or questions, hola Sandra, hello. If you have any questions for me, if you want to go deeper, if you want to know what's in store for you over the next couple of months to help you transition really into your next evolution into this new year, I believe in much more than, surviving the holidays, but actually really coming into a new evolution of our beings with ourselves, with our families, with our communities, and how we can take that into the new year, not as New Year's resolution that we do once, but as a conscious preparation for becoming who we are becoming in a conscious way. This is something that that if you are here and you are listening, that you are being called to this space. You're being called to, as I'm talking about going deeper, this is something I did a talk about a couple days ago, but it's a time and space where really this season is calling us to go deeper into actually touching the roots of what needs to be shifted. And one of the essences, what makes this work so powerful, it's simplicity, but also its speed, its potency, and its efficiency. So if this is something you've kind of really been feeling a call to, whether it's through, feeling stuckness, when you know that you have a sense of potential, and you can see that sense of potentiality of who you are becoming on the other side, and you are looking for some guidance and support into getting there with ease, with some sense of speed and urgency, then this might be the perfect space for you. So just drop me some comments, drop me some hearts, and I will come back to you and connect if you are curious. You can also always check out Moved From Within is my business page. And from there, you can book yourself a free chat just to connect with me that way as well. So a couple different ways to connect. I really hope that this has been a helpful transmission. I really invite you to really play and explore with this very simple but yet very powerful practice. All right, my loves, I will see you live on Friday for part 2 of the Heart series. We can dive a little bit deeper into how we can really start to use this information and what we can do with it. So see you Friday, noon Pacific time is the time, and Saturday will be part 3, again, noon Pacific time. Lots of love to all of you. Mwah! See you.